Welcome to our sports video sessions provided by the Office of Sport. This video is all about sponsorship and social media. Traditionally, how is it that clubs raise funds? Obviously through their membership each year, through events, through fundraising, for example selling chocolates, for applying for council, state government and federal government grants, and of course sponsorship. And where does sponsorship come from? Local business, maybe some businesses that have national programs, but by and large, most clubs struggle at some point within their life cycle to either get a sponsor or once they've got that sponsor to retain them. What does the average sponsorship life cycle look like? Well, it should be to attract a sponsor, receive the money, spend the money on something useful for the club, and then ideally the sponsor is happy and returns. But in reality, what does that life cycle actually look like? Consider the example of a leagues club giving a local association $2,000. The association uses that money to upgrade their equipment. They might put the logo of the sponsor on the website, maybe in a newsletter, but that's about it. Come to the second year and the club reapplies for sponsorship. They think, well, we got money last year, we'll get that sponsorship again and maybe we can ask for some more. Ultimately, the leagues club says, well, we didn't get a tangible benefit last year. There was no uptick in membership. We didn't get any great returns. Sorry, we're going to give the money to someone else. So the critical question is, once you get the money in year one, how do you service that sponsor to keep them coming back for year 2, 3 and beyond? When servicing a sponsor, there are a bunch of things that a club can do. There are traditional methods, branding rights, naming rights, impressions, invitations to events, but the critical one is social media, and it has to be a strong focus. Looking at our traditional methods though, these are easy for a club to do. Branding is obvious. Name and logo on the club uniforms, events, banners, emails, website, and critically, social media. Make sure that the brand of the sponsor is in your imagery, your photos you put up, the header at the top with the large splash of the sport. Make sure that all of that contains in some way a reference to the sponsor, and it doesn't have to be overt. It can be subtle. It's easy enough to put a large panoramic picture at the top of your page of your sport, of game day. Lo and behold, there just happen to be some sponsor win flags in the background. It is easy to be subtle about servicing the sponsor as well, because everywhere they look, there are hints that they're a sponsor of your club. Another traditional method is naming rights. And naming rights also are easy. Pick a competition, insert the sponsor's name. Put their logo on a trophy and make sure it's of a reasonable size. If you put the logo digitally, make sure it's not tiny in the corner, but also make sure it doesn't take up half the page. It needs to be something that recognizes what the sponsor has contributed. And if you have different levels of sponsors, then the naming rights, size of the logo, placement of the logo is going to change. A naming right for a major sponsor may be on the front of your club jersey, hoodie, t-shirt, whatever that might be. Or if it's on the referee uniforms, it's probably going to be on the back because that's what people are looking at. Smaller sponsors may be relegated to the arms or their logos may be smaller. So just make sure you're thinking about that when you look at naming rights. A critical method that has traditionally been based in things like how many views your website got is impressions. But impressions goes far beyond that. Most clubs will say, oh, our website gets 100,000 views a year. That's great. But there are other sources of information about how many eyeballs might see a sponsor's logo. How many games do you have a week? How long do they go for? How long will that win flag be up? And how many participants will be through the venue in that time? How many SMSs or texts or emails do you send out? Will the logo be in the emails? How many newsletters do you get printed? And what about membership cards? There's so many ways that you can count impressions or eyeballs on a sponsor's logo. And these are all traditional methods, but they are really important. Once you get these right, it's easy to convert them into a digital version for social media. And of course, social media is critical. It's a way of engaging with your customers. It's not just promoting content. It's a two-way conversation. And by association, your sponsors are in that two-way conversation as well. They're able to benefit from that. And Australia is huge on social media. From the 65% of us that are on social media, 95% of us use Facebook. And that's a great sponsorship avenue. Lots of people put the sponsor on the Facebook page. But the sponsor has to recognise as well that it is a two-way street and they can engage with your members as well. It's all about how they market their business. Of course, in managing this, you probably need a media manager. You need someone involved in the club that can actually facilitate putting this content on Facebook, making sure the sponsor gets mentioned, making sure that you're sharing interesting content that the sponsor is delivering. And of course, underpinning that, you have to have clear policies about how to use social media and what to do when things go wrong. And we also, at the Office of Sport, have a whole video on this that covers all of these topics in greater detail. And of course, the last way is by inviting your sponsor to events. The traditional method would be to invite your sponsor to awards nights, grand finals, and registration days. However, social media plays a role here too. You can use social media, obviously, to invite your members to an event, but the sponsor can as well. Let's say you have a local sponsor and you have a registration day coming up. What a great way to cross-promote. The sponsor puts on their Facebook page, local club over here is having a registration day. We're proud to be a sponsor. On your page, for example, you're promoting, hey guys, we have a registration day sponsored this year by sponsor. And of course, come and see us and them at registration day. And then in physical, real life, you and the sponsor can both be there. So it works both ways. Both you and the sponsor can be cross-promoting when it comes to events and invitations. And of course, once these things happen, you need to gather the right information. You need to give the sponsor a report. How many members you have, how many competition days their win flag was shown, what views your website got, and importantly, how you promoted them on social media and how you engaged with your members around that. And lots of social networks have analytics to help you. Facebook, for example, has a tool called Insights, which allows you to see things like demographics of the people that like your page. Now, this is really important because for a sponsor, for example, selling home loans, if your fans are 13 to 18 years old, that's probably not relevant. If your fans are 25 to 40, that probably is relevant. So lining up a sponsor with the right target audience, you can facilitate that very easily by looking at these statistics. And of course, once you've got those statistics, you need to put them in a report. Synthesize something that looks professional. It's nicely laid out, has all the dot points, and you give it to them with a framed gift, maybe a piece of signed merchandise, a trophy, maybe the sponsor logo is all over the merchandise that you give them. Show them the physical proof that you carried out the sponsorship and have a good working relationship with them. Nothing's worse than when you don't get on with the sponsor. Make sure you understand your expectations, they understand the expectations, and it's probably a good idea to get that on one piece of paper. Here's what we'll do as a club, here's what you'll do as a sponsor, and at the end of the year, here's how we'll summarize that for you. That leads to a happy sponsor and one that will be happy to return for years to come.